Yeah, well, from hashtag Expresso Hug, it's time to get excited because today is World Hug Day. It's celebrated across the world every year on January the 21st. And World Hug Day is all about encouraging one another to hug family, friends, and even perfect strangers if you're that way inclined. And, you know, while it might seem a bit silly, there are, in fact, incredible benefits to hugging. So with us in studio this morning, we have clinical psychologist Jenny Rose to tell us why we should hug each other a little bit more. How are you this morning, Jenny?
I'm well, and
in fact, you know what? Just bring it in, bring it in.
Bring it in.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that was nice. That felt good.
Did it feel good?
I need to start every interview like that. Oh, man. All right. so let's talk about that. I mean, whether you're hugging friends or a partner or even perfect strangers, are there really actual benefits to hugging?
You know, I think it's a bit debatable, but what we certainly know is that at the moment there's quite a big trend for neuropsychologists to try and establish the significance of physical things on psychological development and psychological things on physical development.
Okay.
And what we know at the moment is that something like a hug actually has significant implications on brain development. And so studying from young ages, infants even, you're actually able to see that there's a substantial difference in the brain structure of a child that has a lot more physical affection than one that doesn't.
Yeah.
So certainly there seems like quite sort of substantial scientific grounds for hugging.
Yeah, other than the fact that it just feels amazing.
And it feels
very good. So the benefit that you get from a hug, is it dependent on age, the type of hug you give, or perhaps the person you're hugging?
Definitely not. I think the critical thing with any sort of physical interaction is that it has to be comfortable and safe for both parties involved. So I think there's a very sort of fine line about crossing a boundary. And the biggest thing around touch, any sort of touch, and particularly touch with children, is it must be positive touch,
yes.
It must be boundaried, and it must be comfortable and appropriate. So you need to determine whether that is okay or not. And you can actually base those cues on the child. You can see, or on the person that you're with, even if it's an adult, on how they actually interact and respond to your coming in closer.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at all these facts that you've just spoken about, what would you say sets hugging apart from, let's say, other alternative healing methods, if you will?
I think the key thing with any sort of physical interaction is there's an emotional connection with individuals. The thing that makes us uniquely human is that we are relational beings, that we are in a relationship with another person. And I think with a hug, there's an emotional connection. So I think it's twofold in a way. I think on the first aspect is that there's immediate gratification. In the moment, it feels good. You feel like you've been heard or loved or appreciated, validated. You feel safe and comfortable. But actually, there's sort of a long-term consequence or a long-term effect as well, is that it really starts to foster something like secure attachment, especially when it's between a parent and a child. And that secure attachment really has implications for development down the line, and particularly in other relationships. It almost forms the sort of blueprint of other relationships. So there's definite short-term and long-term effects for any kind of physical interaction.
I like what I'm hearing already. So we know that you should be drinking at least 8 glasses of water a day, taking about 2 to 3 portions of fruit and veggies. How many hugs should you be giving a day?
I suppose as many as you can get.
Yes! Fill up that quota, fill up that quota. But how should you approach hugging? Because I once met someone who, when I went to them and tried to shake their hand, they said, no, I'm a hugger. It was a bit of a surprise, but then I kind of went in for the hug and it was like, oh man, that's nice, you know, how are you doing? So how should you approach hugging?
Interesting. I think it needs to be something that is congruent. I think you need to feel comfortable. I think if you are not a hugger and you try to go in to hug someone, it's just not going to come across as genuine and empathetic at all. It's just going to seem a bit false. So I think the key thing is about being comfortable with it yourself, and if you're comfortable, then go for it.
Very true. Well, thank you very much. I'm very, very excited to start hugging today, and I hope that you dish out those hugs too.
For sure.
So, I mean, whether it's a simple squeeze, a big bear hug, or some cute cuddling, because some people like that too, there are plenty of reasons why we should embrace the act of hugging. So give as many as you can today, and let us know how it makes you feel on our Expresso Facebook page. In fact, right now, you know the French, when they meet each other, they usually do like the mwah, mwah, mwah. That's something they do in their culture, but if you did that to, I guess, a Zulu person, that might be like, hey, uyenzani. So right now we're talking about cultural faux pas that you should not commit.